Welcome, everybody. I am Kevin Iole. Thank you for joining me. And joining me right now is a legend from the world of gorillas, of course, the former UFC champion, and most importantly, of course, the host of Cooking with Volk, the former champ, Alexander Volkanovski. How are you, champ?
I'm good. I'm very, very good. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Always happy to talk to you again. It's been a while since we've seen you. Diego Lopes for the vacant, soon to be vacant featherweight championship UFC 314 on Saturday. First of all, was this time off intentional? It's going to be 14 months when you walk in the ring. Was that time off intentional on your part?
Yeah. After the last one, I wanted to have a break. It was probably a bit longer than I originally wanted, but it's just how it turned out. So I'm okay with that. It's been great. You know what I mean? Camp was incredible. Everything's went exactly how I wanted it. So I wanted to have the break, wanted to feel good. I wanted to, obviously, once I got back into training, make sure I could still be that same guy. So these were going to be questions you're going to ask yourself through that time off, right? But I'm glad that I was able to answer them early in camp. So it's been great. The break was great for me to evolve more of as a person outside of fighting, which was great for me to build confidence and be comfortable of like in who I am and whatnot, which I think adds to everything now as a fighter as well. So just as I said, it was so good to have that break, but I'm so glad I was able to flip the switch back to being that that fighter or that guy that got me to the belt, and that mindset and that work ethic, all that type of stuff. And I'm glad I was able to switch that back on through camp, which I really was early in camp too. So I'm very happy with that.
I should offer congratulations. I know you're going to have another baby girl, so that's good for you. We're happy about that. That was a very good. That was one of your best reveals. That was a really good one. I enjoyed that one.
Okay, so, yeah. Well, I was there obviously for the press conference. I was in Vegas.
Yeah,
Emma was like, we didn't want to wait, so we're like, we'll just do it over FaceTime. So.
Now, Diego is a guy, it's been incredible since he's been in the UFC. He had those 3 first-round knockouts and everything in a row. But fighting good opponents is nothing new to you. And so my question to you would be, is there a little disappointment that you're going to be looking across from Diego Lopes on Saturday night as opposed to the guy who beat you for the championship, Ilia Topuria?
Won't be disappointment. No, definitely not a disappointment on the night now, because he's who I've been training for. So that's all I've been envisioning. So that's my expectations is to fight Diego. I would have been early on, like I said, with the break that I had, it was probably longer than I expected. But through Max and Ilia had to fight, and then by the time we could do it, it just wasn't happening. So it got to a point where I'm just like, all right, let me fight someone, either Ilia or I don't care if it's for an interim, whatever. Like I got to a point where I was, all right, I don't want to wait any longer. If he wants to sit and wait, I may as well fight someone else for an interim while that's happening, because I was promised the title and things like that. So it got to a point where, I really wanted it to be Ilia. I would have been disappointed early on if it wasn't going to be, but then it got to a point where, all right, anyone now, because I don't want to wait. So that's sort of where we're at. And look, he's moving up, doing his thing. Fair play to him. Good on him. At least I got the next best thing. He's fighting a young, hungry, new generational fighter in Diego Lopes for the actual belt. So it's pretty cool. I got the next best thing, and camp's been great. Focusing on him, and that's all I'm prepped for now. So nothing else really on my mind other than Diego and going out there and taking him out and getting that belt back.
You had mentioned about, the time off helping you grow as a person. How does growing as a person impact you in the octagon? Like, how does it make you a better fighter?
That's a good question. I think it's being able to sort of flip through the two now for me. So, okay, here's a good point. So, I found it very hard to be myself. I was always just how could you say, that identity of being a fighter. So
Right.
even when I would want to switch off, be at a family dinner, or be somewhere, I didn't know how to be myself. So like I'm like, am I really having a break from this? Like, so it's hard to sort of explain exactly. I found it hard to even hold proper conversations.
Right.
I was so used to having these conversations. You know what I mean?
Right.
I could chat all day. Like, with this talk about fight, and usually I'm answering your question. Look, I'm still
Yeah.
mumbling. I'm still rambling. Sorry, I'll just go on for days. Right? Like, that's just how I am. But when it comes to actually talking to friends that I've had for a while, I found that harder. Like, I couldn't properly have them communications, if that sort of makes sense. So me being able to be comfortable and be able to be myself, I could leave the gym and be Alex. You know what
Right.
I mean? I always was still Alex. I was always still a respectful guy, but I couldn't properly switch off to that fight identity. Where now I feel like I can. Now I'll go to the farm and whatever it is, go jump on the quad bike, take the kids for a ride on the quad bike, catch
Yeah.
snakes, whatever it is. Just be myself. And be able to do that. I think it's very, very good. It's it's very good to be able to do what you've always done in the gym, but be able to switch that off and then go back, and you know what I mean. And especially for someone who's been in the game for so long, it's not as exhausting because imagine
You're
being
able
in
to
the game for
relax
so
in
long.
your life, and that helps you in the fight. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, I get to enjoy training a little bit more again. I get to, it's not like going back to the gym and I've been thinking about it all day. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, it's a sort of a tricky one. I'll
Sure.
be able to go in fresh every time. Fresh mentally for training. The work ethic's always going to be there. I'm always going to train hard and whatnot. But I mean, over so many years, it's the want to be there and things like that. That might start getting a bit harder. Where for me, it's like, all right, I'm gonna have that break. All right, time to switch it back on. Let's go. All right, what are
Right.
we doing? It's a sort of, I feel like that helps a lot. Just make me have that sort of, I guess the hunger was always there, but I mean, I don't know, maybe that little bit more hunger, even
Interesting.
not just to win, but to even just to train and get results,
So,
tick goals.
when I look at your career, like if they stopped MMA today, you're going to end up as one of the handful of the greatest fighters who ever lived, right? So, no matter what you do from this point forward, your legacy is secure. But I always have known the elite athletes are the ones that, it almost seems like they hate losing more than they like winning. And so was the 25-1 more gratifying, or is the 1-3 in the last four more hurtful? Like when you think about it.
I mean, I'm good. Look, you're right. Losing is you don't get scared of getting hit and punched and hurt and all that. You get scared of losing. Like, I'm worried about getting hit because that could cost me the fight and lose,
Right.
right? Like, so losing is obviously something that, but you say for the elite guys, or just anyone, right? If if you want to, you have to have that mindset of you can't lose. Like, the hate for losing. But when you do, can you still be able to accept it and move on? So, you know what I mean? So it's tricky because it sounds like I'm not caring too much about it. But going into that fight, I can't think of anything worse. There's no
Right.
way. How am I going to live with this loss? That's sort of where you're at. But it happens. Is like, all right, we need to move on. I can't sit there, dwell on it, and carry on for the rest of my life about it. We need to accept the same as even with injuries and whatnot.
Sure.
You get so worried about getting injured, say, like you say you busted your foot, and you're like, man, please don't be broken. Like, what am I going to do? You start freaking out because of this uncertainty. And then you find out it is broken. You got the worst possible news. And then you're like, all right, what do we got to do? So and then you accept it, move on. You know what I mean? We can still fight. We can work around it, and just do that. Bang, flip the switch and accept it. Yeah. So for me, it was like, you're going to think this is the worst thing that could happen. Like, because you don't know what's going on. Then hopefully it's not broken. We're all good. And you find out it's the worst possible news. And then all of a sudden, the next day, I'm like, it's weight lift off my shoulder because I at least know what's happened. I've accepted it,
Right.
move on. Now I've
Yeah.
got this to do. So it's the same with the losses. I treat it like that. Like, oh no, like, we can't lose. You know what I mean? I'm going to do everything in my power to not lose. But when we do, all right, we're not going to dwell on it and let it roll on and then ruin our life. we're gonna work on things, accept it, find what we need to fix, and then move on that way. So you need to learn to be able to accept things.
I think what some people don't think about sometimes is that you guys have families that go through this with you, right? And they see everything. And I wonder, like, how hard this has been. You know, your daughter's like 10 years old now. Your wife, you know, sees this and she sees what happened. And for many years, she's used to seeing Alex come home with the big check and the bonus and the belt around his waist. And the last couple of years, you know, lumped up and whatever happens. How hard it is on her. And does that make it hard on you when you see your family suffer in the light of your loss?
They would suffer if I was suffering. So there's another reason why you have to accept it and move on. You know what I mean? Because if I was, that's the thing. If I'm not accepting it, and now I'm dwelling on it, now it's affecting my family. Now my family is seeing me upset. Now my family is seeing me hurt and seeing me be miserable and depressed and all that. Now all of a sudden, everyone's feeling it. Obviously, everyone hates that you lose, right. But at the same time, if I'm all of a sudden spending more time and happy about it, and you can see me accept it, and then I've even got my kids that will, you know, sometimes obviously they might see Ilia and be like, oh, Ilia, you know, like, you know, I'm like, hey, that's enough. And they can see that I'm fine with the guy, and you should be, you know what I mean, like, he's young. So seeing me like that, like, you know what I mean, all of a sudden, like, sort of will be like, oh, okay, everything's good, move on. Everyone just moves on. It's like it never happened. So that's sort of where it is. The kids maybe not as much because they
right.
they remember me having a belt, and they obviously want daddy to get the belt back. But with my wife, seeing me fine is the main thing, and seeing me accept it, and she's able to just move on as well. So me accepting, and that's what I mean by accepting it, is not only very beneficial for me, beneficial for the people around me. And then if it's beneficial for the people around me, that's more beneficial again for me. So you get what I mean? So it all adds to it.
I'm sure you watched the show last week from Apex, and you saw the promo for the fight, right? And of course, you know, the same thing that you faced when you fought Topuria, where they were, you know, you were old man Volk in that thing. You know, they brought up the records, and the champions what the records are after 35 years old. So you're as smart a guy as I've ever met in the sport in terms of understanding yourself and understanding the sport. Do you feel like your physical skills are still as good as they ever were, or do you rely more now on this than you do on, you know, your athleticism like you used to?
It's a very good question, because I feel like camp was great. Like, you know what I mean? I wanted to be like, am I going to be that same guy? They were the questions that I was asking myself on my time off. And then I answered them. I'm like, man, I am still that same guy. But again, not only I've always known that these guys, you know, everyone has a chance to beat me by catching me, setting up something. Again, I don't like to say that they're getting lucky shots, but that's the only way I see myself losing. And I've always understood that. And that's how I've had my losses, except for obviously the Islam. The first one, that was a decision, very close fight. But like in my division, I can't see anyone beating me for 25 minutes. It's just not going to happen. They might catch me with something. They might set something up beautifully and get me. Good on for that. But that's just how I see it. I forget what that question was, because I was bringing it into something.
Well,
what was the question?
Yeah, no, I was just talking about is it your brains that you rely on now, or is it still the athleticism?
Yes, exactly. So I've always known that, right? I've always known that. But again, having them losses clarified that, you know, you need to take it serious. You know what I mean? Like, I feel great. I feel fast and all that. But I mean, I need to make sure, what if it does catch you? You know, what if, you can be put to sleep?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like before that, I could be like, even if they do land it, maybe I won't. You know what I mean? Like you could still rely on that. When now it's like, no, you've been knocked out.
Yeah.
You know, let's use our brains. Let's limit those chances. Yeah, you feel great. I know it. You feel like you're the same guy. But let's be smart with this. Let's be very calculated and do the best of both worlds. Yeah, you're going to be sharp and all that, but let's use our brains as well and put it all together and just be untouchable in there.
Let's wrap up with this. So you win the fight. How do you win it? Like he's got great submissions. You know, he's shown he has that knockout power. His KO of Sadiq Youssef, I thought, was really unbelievable. How do you beat him? Like, where do you think you take advantage of him, and how do you get it done?
I mean, you say this every time. Everyone's going to say it, right? Oh, I reckon I could knock him out. I reckon I could do this. I could do it. I see all ways of winning. I can even see myself. I know he's got a great submission game. I can even see myself submitting him in some parts. I would probably go more to TKO because if the submission's there, I probably would punch instead of go for the submission. So I'll say the TKO is more likely, but I really do see myself being able to finish this guy because he's so aggressive, so dangerous.
Right.
And where I'm at, I feel like I'm going to capitalize on that. If I don't, all right, I'll go out there and I could just dominate and just show everyone that I'm still that guy. Like, no, man, he's back. He's that same Volk that we're so used to seeing. He's back. If you don't see that, it's because I capitalize on his aggression early. But if it doesn't, fine, I'll take it wherever it is. Obviously, we know the longer the fight goes, that's better for me. So it's just. But I truly do think that I can catch him. You know what I mean? He's so aggressive, which is why it's very exciting. And it's funny, I'm okay saying this. It's not like, people are going, oh, you're giving away what you want to do. Is like, if he wants to not be aggressive and try and out-strategize me and all that, right, that's going to be even worse for him. His best chance is being very aggressive and catching me. And that's just, I believe right, that's just fact. And so I'm happy to say that is your best chance. But that can obviously be a big part of your downfall as well, especially with a smart man like me. So I can capitalize, and I think I will.
Yeah. Going to be something. Can't wait to see that fight. Alex, we wish you the best. All the luck. You're always good. Best of luck in the championship fight, and we'll see you soon.
No worries. Thank you, man. It's always good chatting to you.